Hey there, chess enjoyers! Today we will together continue exploring the exciting chess world, or to be more specific, the Slav Defence. One kind of declining the Queen's Gambit. The Slav Defence is one of the primary defenses of the Queen's Gambit, and although it was already explored more than 400 years ago, it was only explored intensively in the 1920s. It begins with the moves pawns to d4 and d5, followed by pawn to c4, the Queen's Gambit, and pawn to c6, the key, are also called the main move of the Slav Defence. So the idea behind this opening, so declining the gambit with c6 and not with e6, is pretty simple and straightforward. By playing the normal and main variation of the Queen's Gambit decline variation, so pawn to e6, Black instantly blocks the development of his queen's bishop like this, and basically just completely restricts the movement of this queen's bishop here on c8 in the debut of the game. And by playing pawn to c6, it's pretty simple, we are just not blocking this development here. And therefore, in the Slav Defence, Black tends to be way more active in this variation of the Queen's Gambit declined. In the Slav Defence, White has exactly 3 main lines between which they can choose right now. Either knight to f3, or the other knight like this on c3, but also exchanging pawns here with pawn c4 captures on d5 is pretty common. But let's at first take a look at the main variation, which is the most famous and common continuation variation with knight to f3. White instantly gains more power of the center of the chessboard here, especially of the e5 square. And Black right now has really many different options. For example, they could play the similar move, knight to f6, instantly also gaining more power of the center of the chessboard, like the e4 square, but the intention behind this move is also to defend the already attacked pawn on d5. Black could actually possibly also continue with pawn to e6 right now, also defending this pawn on d5, even though this move, pawn to e6, instantly contradicts the actual idea behind the Slav Defence, which was not to block the white queen's bishop here on this diagonal to develop. But well, it's still playable. But in this position, Black still has to be very careful with his bishop development, because for example, if we would play bishop to f5, this really wouldn't be a good move, and some people or some players would even consider it a little mistake or inaccuracy. Because here, after the following pawn trade like this, White has the option to play the very good move in this position, which is queen to b3 forking the black pawn here on d5 and on b7. Now let's take a look at the second main line of the Slav Defence, which is to develop our other knight like this on c3. Here, there isn't really such a big difference between these two main lines, just that White is right now preparing the counter pawn advance with pawn to e4, striking here very aggressively in the center of the chessboard. Black again should not play or should not develop his queen's bishop on f5 like this, because he would just lose a pawn the same way with the fork, like I've already shown you in the other main line. Therefore, Black often plays the move knight to f6. And here we with White could actually just transpose back into the first main line of the Slav Defence by playing knight to f3, or we could develop a bit slower and a bit patiently with pawn to e3. But Black could also actually try a very interesting variation, which is the Wiener counter gambit, by playing pawn to e5 and striking here, and we can really see many pawns, so these 5 pawns in the center of the chessboard, preparing for a little battle. So White can now either capture with the c-pawn on d5, but also they could just accept the gambit by capturing this e5 pawn with their d4 pawn. So even though it's not really a big difficulty for Black to recapture, so to regain the lost pawn in this position, but White is still often considered to stand a bit better than his opponent in the Wiener counter gambit of the Slav Defence. Now let's continue with the third and already the last main line of the Slav Defence, which is the exchange variation. How the name of this variation already teasers, we're just exchanging pawns in the center of the chessboard like this. After the exchange, the tension in the center of the chessboard is relieved, and this offers often Black equality. Because of this, in high-level chess games, this variation also often ends in a draw. Maybe somebody would get the idea that recapturing the lost pawn on d5 here would be also possible with the queen from d8, because, well, it's not important with which chess piece I recapture the pawn, but rather the fact that I regain my lost pawn. But actually, this is not really a good move because of knight to c3 directly attacking the black pawn on d5, on which black will lose tempi. Therefore, I would not recommend you to recapture the lost pawn on d5 with the queen, but rather very normally and simply with your pawn from c6, like this. The exchange variation was once even described as the system that takes the fun out of playing the Slav for black. So how I have already said, because of the similar position after 3 moves on the chessboard, which looks like this, it is very equal and drawish. The game can actually even continue with the moves knights to f3 and f6, afterwards the other knights on c3 and c6, and finally the bishops, which develop on f4 and f5. So we can see that after 6 moves the position is still completely equal and symmetrical on the whole chessboard, where every chess piece is developed to a very good square. Pretty funny, huh? So this was it an audio with this video, in which I have shown you the 3 main lines of the Slav Defence. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to this YouTube channel, and write down there in the comments about which other chess opening you want to see, and have a brand new video on this YouTube channel. Till next time, bye!